Gone. Amazing accuracy.
Between the launches of Major League Cricket in the United States, the Women's Premier League in India, and Ben Stokes' Bazballing Brits putting bums on seats in the Test arena, the past couple of years has been an exciting period of expansion and evolution for the sport of cricket in all of its forms. Well, except for one. Cricket 24, the latest video game version of the most beer-friendly of summer sports from developer Big Ant Studios, finds itself stuck in the past like a handlebar mustache on an Aussie fast bowler, dishing up a brand of bat-on-ball gameplay that's almost indistinguishable from the now 2-year-old Cricket 22. A sprinkling of new and only partially implemented player licenses, slight visual improvements, and the addition of Adam Gilchrist to the perennially misfiring commentary team.
Good bowling there.
No surprise there to see that one called a wide.
Don't really combine to provide a compelling enough reason to bring returning fans back through Cricket 24's turnstiles. To be fair, you might assume that adding licensed Indian Premier League teams, the Pakistan Super League competition, and a handful of new national teams would be a boon for Cricket 24 of, well, David Boone proportions. But sadly, most of these additions come with compromises. Only 8 out of the 10 IPL teams are actually featured, and the actual IPL tournament itself isn't available to play unless you want to cobble together a rough approximation of it yourself using a combination of the competition editing tools and the community-created squads. It makes for a slightly less ideal way to experience one of the crowning jewels on the cricketing calendar. Meanwhile, both the PSL competition and all of its teams are fully licensed, yet few of the Pakistani players feature their actual likenesses. This is apparently since they won't have their faces scanned by Big Ant's photogrammetry rig and added into Cricket 24 until the Pakistan team arrives in Australia for a test tour this December. Conversely, despite the fact a number of the top Indian players make an appearance in Cricket 24 via their IPL teams, you can't actually place them into the Indian team itself because it remains unlicensed. Indeed, trying to make sense of Cricket 24's complicated web of licensed and unlicensed content gave me such a headache that I briefly considered calling for a concussion substitute to complete this review for me.
Ooh, that's hit them, and on a pacey wicket too. That'll hurt for some time.
Still, Cricket 24 boasts over 300 players that have had their faces scanned and slapped onto the bodies of their in-game counterparts. And certainly the likes of Aussie captain Pat Cummins and Afghan superstar Rashid Khan look reasonably close to the real deal. Licensed uniforms also look the part, and there's some improved lighting and texture work on display in this year's installment, such as the gold foil that adorns the Mumbai Indians playing strip, or the gloss on the stickers of the many licensed bats. Yet elsewhere, there's some attention to detail that's notably lacking, particularly in terms of hairstyles and signature accessories. A strange, slicked-back mullet makes Spencer Johnson from Brisbane Heat look closer to Don Johnson from Miami Vice. Meanwhile, England's Stuart Broad, who remains unretired in Cricket 24 and therefore able to take David Warner's wicket at will for many more years to come, isn't rocking the Karate Kid headband that became a goofy on-field fashion choice for him in the latter part of his career.
Oh, that's been heaved away and punished over the rope. That's a brute of a maximum.
In terms of the actual action out in the middle, Cricket 24 provides a pretty similar experience to that of Cricket 22. Cricket 24's batting feels smooth and responsive.
Picks the gap perfectly.
Its bowling offers the same large variety of delivery types to set up each batsman with.
Gone. Played all around that one. What a delivery.
And its difficulty settings are customizable to the point that you're given the power to tailor the experience to suit virtually any skill level, provided you've got the patience to tinker with its slightly overwhelming list of adjustable gameplay sliders. However, Cricket 24 is a bit like the Sex Panther cologne of cricket games.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Cricket 24's otherwise enjoyable simulation can often erode faster than Johnny Bairstow's ability to concentrate at the crease.
Pretty disappointing all round.
Many of the issues are messy but ultimately fairly minor distractions, like how highlight replays will be out of focus, or how camera angles will switch to the inside of player models, or even how the ponytails on certain players will suddenly morph and stretch into the air as though they've got a symbiotic tendril sprouting out of the back of their head. They're not the only ones who appear to have freakish superpowers either, with fielders regularly scoring direct hits at the stumps despite appearing to throw the ball in the entirely opposite direction.
Oh, great run out.
Not to be outdone by the on-screen sloppiness, new commentator Adam Gilchrist awkwardly slots into a commentary team that once again seems to be watching an entirely different match to the one that you're playing.
Goes over the top with that shot. Great shot, through the gap. That's a big outside edge and it flies past fifth slip. Nicely played. Runs one. Gone! Caught!
Considerably more damaging to matches, though, is Cricket 24's infuriatingly iffy fielding AI, which manages to completely sour potentially momentous occasions on a regular basis.
Finds the middle of the bat.
My first PSL match finished as a tie and thus went into a super over, and with my Lahore Calendars needing 12 runs off 6 balls, it felt as though the match was surging towards a nail-biting end. However, all the tension was sucked out of the match in an instant when I pulled a short ball towards the boundary and managed to run 5 runs while the fielder at deep square vibrated on the spot as though he was being electrocuted.
That was one of the easiest wins at this level of cricket you are likely to witness.
Similarly, in Cricket 24's career mode, I toiled away without luck while bowling for my first couple of club matches,
Nearly gets the edge.
before finally catching the edge of the bat with a beautifully pitched up outswinger in my third game, only to watch the ball sail directly in between the waiting hands of first slip and crash squarely into his groin.
This contest is over. Give that man the $10,000.
Despite it being described as completely overhauled by Big Ant, for the most part the fielding here feels less Cricket 24 and more Cricket under 10s.
Bonus runs here, 4 of them.
Inside edge. Caught. Gone.
Mind you, despite the fact it robbed me of my first wicket, that ball to the groin was still one of the more memorable moments from my time with Cricket 24's career, since the multi-season single-player mode in this year's game is somehow even more streamlined and light on presentation than the already fairly bare-boned equivalent in Cricket 22. A number of player management features have been thrown out entirely, with nothing added to take their place. The option to complete training minigames in the gym or go for a net session in order to boost your stats in between matches is no more. Instead, you either sit alone in the change room, head off to the sauna to reduce your players' fatigue, or just hop straight onto the team bus for the next match on the calendar. It quickly became a bit of a monotonous grind, and after investing dozens of hours in Cricket 22's career mode, there just didn't appear to be any really meaningful additions here to keep me invested for another go-around.
Lovely cover drive, but straight to extra cover.
They make it back, but that was much closer than it needed to be.
In the end, I bounced off Cricket 24's career mode before my created player had even graduated to an Australian stateside, let alone national duty. Ultimately, it would appear that Big Ant has put most of its energy into securing licenses for Cricket 24, rather than making any really significant strides in the gameplay department. As someone who's been playing the Melbourne-based developers cricket sim since Don Bradman Cricket 14, I'd argue that the lack of licensing isn't really a problem that needs prioritising. At least, not for as long as the still excellent in-game creation tools and a community of talented fans are around to render the players, uniforms and stadia that Big Ant is otherwise unable to secure. Instead, I'd gladly give up a fully licensed Thailand team or any number of real-world bat sponsors if it meant that I was able to play against AI that didn't force Jimmy Anderson to bowl bouncers in the first few overs of a test match,
Lovely shot.
or keep the field set back to save boundaries when I only need 1 run from 10 deliveries, or indeed if I could play on a wicket that visibly wore over time, rather than remaining pristine from the coin toss all the way through to the evening of day 5.
There could be a couple if they hustle.
It's for these reasons and many others that Cricket 24 is hard to recommend over Cricket 22. Sure, the older game is also plagued by a lot of these same problems, but at least you can probably pick it up for less cash. Wait a second, are those pyrotechnic displays set up inside the boundary rope?
Errs on the side of bowling slightly fuller, and they've been put away.
Nice cut shot, but straight to gully.
That races away to the boundary. A beautiful shot off the front foot.
Cricket 24 is a bit like English opener Rory Burns. That is, capable of quality play for decent periods, and getting the job done despite looking a little peculiar at times, but a bit too inconsistent overall to be considered an automatic selection.
Completely done by the Yorker. Great bowling.
Since developer Big Ant Studios has previously made a habit out of post-release tweaking, future updates may well address a lot of the lingering issues with licensed players and smooth out the rough edges of its AI and presentation. And in 6 months' time, this could potentially be a simulation worth going into bat for. However, as of right now, Cricket 24 is a disappointingly modest and often slipshod update that seemingly lacks the confidence or creativity to advance further down the wicket.
Gone. Played all around that one. What a delivery.
For more reviews of sports games with 24 in their titles, check out our verdicts on EA Sports FC 24 and NBA 2K24. For everything else, stick with IGN.
Great shot, at least one on offer. Gone! Caught!